Hello and welcome to a UKVersus deck review. Today we are joined by a very special guest, Nathan Squire, going over his Nationals Monoma deck, which is a very cool deck, and I'm really glad that we got him on to have a take a look at it. I'll hand you over to Nathan.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Nathan Squire. I've been invited to give a deck profile for my EU Nationals deck list. I chose to select NATO Monoma as my character. Um, I've been back and forward with the Monoma deck for quite a while since it came out in set 2. I've tried them on all the symbols, and I just felt for this format or for the Nationals format that a lot of the top contending decks don't enjoy the mirror match. And my decision for this were Monoma plays mirror matches. It's exactly what it does. His response copies your rival's character, gets all the effects, you can't stop that effect. And then he gives your attacks the keyword traits which your rival's character needs. In a nutshell, what this basically means is I can play any attack lineup which I want, which is a strong attack lineup on the symbols, just natively strong for the characters without the keywords, and then Monoma pulls the keywords together. So we'll show you a bit more what I mean on that when we get to the attacks. So starting, as I said, starting character is NATO Monoma. This build is on the life symbol, and it's quite a hefty deck. Main board is 77 cards. It's kind of toolboxy. There's very few cards which are all off. So we'll get to it. Starting off with 3 actions. We run the actions with Monoma's face on. We run Ruthless Mockery. Most decks, you'll see this are playing it for the response. But there's something really special about feeling yourself when you go, I'll enhance Monoma, give it a taunt keyword, it gets a damage. I'll second enhance Mockery, I'll give it 2 damage because it's got taunt, I draw a card and I get stunned. That additional card draw is really, really beneficial for the deck. So we're running 3 of that. Moving on to the assets, we've got 5 assets in the deck. I've chose to inflate the asset count a little bit. So we have 2 quick creation, 2 box full of babies, and 1 airy. Originally, this was just 1-1-1. But I chose to increase the box full of babies and the quick creations to 2x. Purely because Mimic is in the format, it gives me extra assets, which may trigger if I pair up against the Mimic. And if I don't pair up against the Mimic, it's a breaker 1 block off a quick creation, and it's a non-unique draw and discard off a box full of babies. So 2 quick creation, primarily there for the breaker block, mid 2 block, breaker 1. It's got the enhanced commit, add the cards from the top of your discard pile to your card pool. Sometimes comes relevant for your attack lineup, mainly there for the defense. Give this attack +2 or -2 damage. The deadlock threat on it never came up, but it's got deadlock printed. It's deadlock first enhanced commit. Double my weapons attack, speed and damage. Could come up, never did. Box full of babies. 1 diff, not unique asset. My turn, once per turn, draw a card. If I'm not Mayhaps, I discard a card. Draw a card, discard a card is really powerful, especially when we're going through the deck. There's not that much draw, which I was able to put in due to the limitations of the attack lineup which I was trying to play under. So that additional draw 1 and discard 1 was the main reason I was coming in. It's when I opened up a game and put a box full of babies down, I felt much more comfortable in that game than if I was missing it. That means that I wouldn't play more than the 2 off. Its E-commit comes up more often than you'd imagine. So it's E-commit, your tech or weapon attack gets +1 speed and +1 damage. You're playing Monoma, every one of your attacks is a tech or weapon. You can just choose which one it is you want and then get the speed or damage. If you're not needing the speed, you give it taunt. If you don't have the attack lineups which you want to be going in, or you have particular attack lineups, you give it the keywords you need for those attack lineups. If not, you give it tech or weapon for 1 speed or 1 damage. And then finally we have an Eri. I think every deck on Eri symbols at the moment is playing 1 Eri. So response, remove, discard momentum, tell your opponent they have to have another attack to kill you, or they just don't. So that's it for the assets. Like I said, slightly inflated. If Mimic weren't in the format, you could probably get away with not playing any assets, probably get away with just playing the Eri. But with Mimic being in the format a little bit, having a few assets there, so that doesn't become a blank character, just felt better. Moving on to the attacks. So before I go into the specifics of my attack lineup, what I'll say is my deck is a punch deck without the punch keyword. So I'm looking to play those combination lines which resolve around punch. My attacks either have punch or I'm giving them the punch keyword. So what's you're looking at, slight spoiler on that, repeated smashes, 100% repeated smash. It doesn't look for printed punching card for, it just looks for punch. So when you give an attack which doesn't have a punch keyword, the punch keyword with Monoma, repeated smash recognizes that. So this allows you to have a inflated power level on a attack stream where non-punch attacks now have the punch keyword, which makes the repeated smashes much more powerful. So moving into the card by card for our attack lineup, we have 2 rewind throttle. Primarily there for high speed, native printed speed 5 attack, and it's a targeted committal. And it draws a card. So high speed 5 damage 3, enhance discard a card, commit a rival foundation, and then enhance if I've discarded a card during this attack, draw a card. You can either discard a card off itself, discard a card off of the box full of babies. You've got assets, you've got avenues to get that discard. And it's the punch, which is what I'm requiring. Moving on, we have 3 muscle rush in main deck. This is so that Monoma hits. So the typical type building frame which you want in a Monoma is throws. I don't run any of the throws in this deck. I didn't feel comfortable with them being played. But that being said, Muscle Rush, low speed 3, damage 3, no keywords on it, but remember Monoma gives it the one I need for that turn. If this attack is completely blocked, it still deals 1. You can then respond off of Monoma, off of that 1 damage to then become a complete character, and then go to the races from there. Its response after you block this card, draw a card, that came up more often than it being played as an attack. I would felt so comfortable with a mid 2, if I block I draw again, being in the deck that I probably, if I revisit this deck, I'll still stick with the Muscle Rush over the throw lineup. Next along, we have Full Cowling Impact. This is the promo. It's Fury Slam. Most people think, because it's got Midoriya's faces on it, it's a punch, but it is not. Until Monoma says that it is. Low speed 2, damage 4. Response, if it's completely blocked, your rival destroys 1 foundation, and enhance gets +1 damage for every card in your rival's hand. The reason I've gone for this attack in particular is it's a off-zone attack, which gives your opponent, your rival, the choice of either take it, or half take it, or blow up a resource. So they're in the situation of, do I let him become a full character by letting the attack hit, or do I fully block it and then lose 1 of my resources? Given that catch-22 situation and potentially a ridiculously powerful attack, I had it against a Nomu which was drawing, where I was able to give it 4 damage, because apparently Nomu had 4 cards in hand. So this is a 8 damage attack. If you completely block it, you blow up 1 of your foundations, which Nomu doesn't want to get rid of. or you respond with normal to take the 6, but then I gain your effects. It wasn't a win-win situation for that normal player. And that's the reason I chose deck. It gives your rival these lose-lose situations. So we have 3 of those. Next on, 2 heroic strikes. This is another card which looks for punch but doesn't look for printed punch. So all my attacks stream up to now, give it a punch, and then you drop a heroic strike. High speed 4, damage 4, your rival commits foundation for every punch in my card pool. So all my non-punch attacks at this point, my full counting attack, my muscle rush, these are now punches, which is an additional committal off of the heroic strike. Again, a 2 off. I would have liked potentially to have upped that one to a 3, but I was running a really high attack count at the moment of 23 attacks, and I just didn't feel comfortable running 24. I also didn't feel comfortable changing my numbers, but hindsight, I can see where some changes could be. Obviously, if anyone's wanted to pick the stack up and they want to increase that number and decrease other attack lineups, fair play to you. I can see this one being a 3 off or a 4 off in the deck, but I settled on a 2. I was happy with that. Next on, we aren't a life deck, in my opinion, if you're not playing Tongue Whip. So we have a 3 of that, low 4, damage 4. Gets a damage for every card in your opponent's card pool, and adds a card from your rival's deck to their card pool. It's +1 speed to every one of your attacks by clogging the card pool up. It's a really damaging attack if you drop it at the end. And like I said, with Monoma, it's also a punch tongue. So we can combo it into the repeated 100% smash to then ready up some more stuff. We can go into the heroic strike off of it to commit more stuff. Or if I don't need a zone, if I don't need a keyword, I give it a taunt and it gets some additional damage. Like with its +1 damage incrementations, it begins to add up. Or you could just be quite comfortable and give it slam, and then you can change its zone off of Mirio, because that's one of the avenues you have with this deck. With Mirio and Overhaul being really heavy in the game, being able to get those effects and then change these powerful attacks, which they typically don't play or can't play, it adds that additional layer of threat which wasn't declining for. So we have 3 Tongue Whip there. Moving on, we have 2 Instant Shining Flash. I'm really happy with the 2. I think this is your flex spots for the other attacks. Shining Flash could quite easily be a sideboard attack. I'm primarily playing it in main deck for the response. So when you have the response, I can play the card. Your rival discards a momentum. This was my answer to Eri. This is what I chose to be. No, I got my number of attacks. Your area's not doing anything. It disrupts the Mirios, everything which needs the momentum. This was my answer. There's a lot of key interactions in the meta at the moment when you require 1 momentum, or at least 1 more momentum, and denying 1 off of the instant shining flash, to me was remarkably powerful. So, to go into one of the shining points for this, in my 3rd round at Nationals, I was paired against a Mineta 2 player. As soon as I drew an instant shining flash, the game changed. It was a slow, grindy game for the first 20-25 minutes. As we were both trying to get 1 up over each other, we were both getting the momentum, using the momentum to deny each other. But the Mineta had the advantage on me because he was able to throw a Bath Hybrid into his momentum as an enhance. And with that 1 additional momentum, I was at the back 20. there became a position in the game where I blocked with an instant shining flash. Responder dropped his last momentum. We're now at that 0 condition, and then it became Operation Deny Momentum. Now that he's on 0, I'm keeping you on 0, and playing that one shining flash was that pivotal point. And then I was able to take that game. Game 1 was 40 odd minutes. I don't think we managed to finish the game 2, but blocking with the one instant shining flash was that pivotal moment. So with it in May, if you want to throw it into side, fair play to you. I can definitely see its place later in the side deck. We have next a 1 of 1 for all full power and 5% strike. Not much to say on the front. It's there for those characters which you just need to commit out. It's good speed, it's good damage. It can refresh your hand when you draw dead, but it's primarily there for those another catch 22 situation. If you don't block it, not only do I create your character, I become your character. So again, round 2, I was against a Nomu. I had a line where I could get to the win. I had just enough attacks to get through 3 instances of his response and get through all his blocks, where the final attack I was going to play was kill him. The first attack I played was the Rewind Throttle. The Rewind Throttle drew me into a full Cowlin, 5% strike, and that just changed my line entirely. It's like, right, you either block this, which I'm going to pump its speed so you can't, and I'm just going to keep your character out. Normally now can't reduce its damage, I can then go ham. I don't see where I could have fit more of this in. I was happy with it being a one-off. When I needed it, I saw it. If I didn't need it, I didn't see it, so I didn't miss it. Last of the printed punches, we have repeated 100% smash. It's possibly the best card in the format. Accidentally kills in the situations it needs to. Readies my stage for every attack I've played, and it is for every attack I've played. Remember what I say? Monoma gives it punch, gives every attack the punch keyword, and repeated smash doesn't care if it's a printed punch or a fake punch. It just says if it's got the punch keyword, I ready a foundation for each one. So one of the interesting lines you can do for this one is use the shining flash, flip a foundation. My next attack's at -1 difficulty. I'll give it the punch keyword. You repeat a smash on a 5 and then get to ready 2. So even if you check a foundation on that 5, you're still ready in on your board. So just that nice little interaction there. Overall, it basically lets you one more foundation than any other deck playing repeated smash, but that one foundation is critical. The last card for me in my attack lineup, we have 3 copies of Dual Needle Lunge. This was my favourite opener. Lose 3 vitality, add it to your slaughter resource. So typically what you would do with this one, you would play the Dual Needle Lunge. Because it's going to momentum, you don't need to give it punch. So this gains taunt. This is the card which you taunt, your Ruthless Mockery, you stun, you draw, it goes to damage 8, and if they block it, it goes to momentum. If they don't block it, you become their character and it goes to momentum. It gives you your speed off repeated smashes, it gives you your powerful on repeated smashes. It just sets the rest of the attack lineup together. Now, in deck building, I originally wasn't running the Needle Lunge, I was running Amphibious Ambush for the same thing, to give me that spot momentum. But I had a epiphany moment when I was speaking with one of my local players, Jonathan, where Needle Lunge does what Amphibious Ambush does, but it's at -1 difficulty. So, for those who are trying to figure it out, Amphibious Ambush adds a other ranged attack from your card pool to your momentum. Same as Repeated Smash, it doesn't look for printed. So, your Muscle Rush, give it the ranged keyword. Amphibious Ambush, put Muscle Rush into momentum. So you're gaining that spot momentum. Whereas Amphibious Ambush would be on a 6, Needle Lunge is on a 5. and then Amphibious Ambush doesn't clear itself, it still sits in card pool, whereas Needle Lunge just cleared itself. So it itself is one less difficulty, and it itself reduces my progressive difficulty by one. I'm like, all in all, I'd sooner have that -2 difficulty across my turn as opposed to 3 life. So Amphibious Ambush was cut entirely, Needle Lunge got increased. And that's where we sit on our attacks. Like I said, there's 23 attacks. There's a few potentially quite notable life attacks which are missing. There's no rejuvenating smashers here. There's no back alley haymakers. The reason for this is I want to hit with my attacks more so than any other deck. I only become a full character once one of my attacks has made contact. So all of the attacks which we've just gone through now are either high or low zone, and there's a rough even spread amongst them. So it puts it in that situation of these mid blocks which you'll be holding, because maybe it's a live spec, so you might be thinking, hang on, he'll be on back alley, or he'll be on the VJU. I'll full block the first one, and then I've got a mid the rejuvenating smash. Those mid blocks are now half blocks, which then means my attack is going to hit you. That's how, in my deck building, I was comfortable in not running throws. There was a line of thinking here where by keeping all my attacks high and low in a format where life has really strong mid attacks, then effectively all my attacks have invisible throw keyword. That was my line of thought, and it kind of had paid off. Moving on to the foundations, we have a total of 46. Like I said at the start, there's not many of my foundations which are 4 off. This is more toolboxy. You'll get to your answers and you'll sit on them. So let's start. We'll go from low difficulty up. So we have our 0 this. We have 10 in total. We have 3 keeping areas safe. This is my stun hate. One of the life symbols, so I've got some difficulties in that, so it's a nice span. It's a good decent stun hate, and it just sits there. So happy to have this card in my deck. We have 2 floating around my babies. Again, this is just for the incremental damage output. Pair along with that, we do have 2 tight-lipped as well. Both are just +1 damage for effectively no cost. But there are situations where you don't feel right paying the flip cost of tight-lipped, or you can't pay the flip cost of tight-lipped, and it just sits there. Or in itself, it just becomes flip itself for 1 damage. Whereas Floating Rumor Babies does not have a cost. Removing 3 cards from your discard pile is not a cost in a deck where you can't pick up cards from your discard pile for the most part anyway. As soon as they hit your bin, they just sat there until you cycle out. We might as well get something out of them. The final 0 diff we have is 3 copies of Release. I love Release. 3 releases, so good. The increase to my check to block pairs really well with the evade copies. So life has a lot of speed hate. It has a lot of defense in it as well as a lot of incremental damage. And that speed hate contradicts with the evading copy, which returns 300 speed, whereas release plays with evading copy so well. So if you are looking at this build, do not touch release. You'd need at least 3 off. I wasn't comfortable playing 4 because I have a lot of 4 checks in the deck, whereas I was also not comfortable playing 2. So 3 was that sweet spot. Moving on to the diff ones, we have a pile of these. So we start off, we've got 1 lessons from Tayaki. I saw this 1 off literally every game, every round, and for the most part, it just sat there. Like, this might be a failing as me as a player, but it just didn't feel right being there. So if this wants to be cut, it can be cut. Just bear in mind, if you do cut it, you are literally getting rid of the only deadlock threat, which life tends to struggle to actually play. There's not much good deadlock in life, whereas this is quote unquote good. Deadlock enhance, remove, add an attack from your catapult to your hand. It's just an extra attack. We have 2 high value target. Again, I just don't feel comfortable playing this in more than a 2 of. Even in a non-Monoma deck, this to me is a 2 of. Counts as 2 foundations to block, so pairs really well with those other defensive pieces I've been talking about. And the response catches people out when it comes up, because most people forget it has a response. Before one of your foundations would be destroyed by a rival effect, you destroy this one instead. So when you, again, it didn't come up, but you go in them hypothetical situations where someone goes like, I'll destroy this, commit this, flip this. You pick one of those options, you go, no, in actual fact, you can have this, by the way. I'm protecting my board. We have 3 note taking. So again, this is 1 diff, low, +2, block, check 5, flip. My punch gets +2 speed. So remember, all my attacks are punch. So if I need an attack to hit, just give it a punch keyword. It can have 1 speed. And then we're moving on. We have 3 self-sacrifice. Destroy a foundation, give attack +1 and -1 damage. It's another one of those life symbol foundations where you just don't leave game without it. Again, 3 of. Very struggled the space to warrant putting in a 4th. I found any more than 3, I was tricking myself into destroying my entire board and overcommitting that way. Whereas putting it down to 3, I saw it frequently enough where I was able to play with it, but not over frequently where I over destroyed. So I think 3 of is the right number there. Pairing with your self-sacrifices, we have 2 precious lessons. So we have response flip after one of my foundations with the destroyed or removed, build the top card of my deck face down. So you destroy a foundation from self-sacrifice, you respond precious lesson, and you rebuild one. Has a dual utility of you'll destroy committed and build already, so you get that additional defense when you're wanting to commit. You get that additional aggro when you wanted to go in. It's a new foundation to ready up off of repeated smashes. It just has so much utility. And the final one off we have of 1 diff is we have 1 infinite potential. This card never came up when I was playing Monoma. It just never felt right to play. However, on those games where I became Overhaul, this card was so good. Just being, I'm going to change this attack to a high, and I'm going to block with it from my stage because it's a high +1 block. It was just so fantastic to play. So again, I'm comfortable playing this as a 1-of in the main deck. Argumentatively, it's one of those sideboard cards where I ran out of space in sideboard, so it became a 1-of in main. Moving on to our 2 diffs, we have 3 cooperation offer. This just pairs in with the life defense, enhance flip, return attack to a sprinted zone, give it -3 speed. Pair that then with another card of your life defense, your rescue completed, commit it to -2 speed, then destroy it with release, the +2 to my check. Effectively sitting there with -7 speed on this block on this attack. Effectively saying this attack is not doing anything, stop playing your hands, so let me block it and we'll move to the next one. Its bottom enhance you commit, this attack is played anywhere over and your hand gets 2 damage. It came up once the entire day when I was on stream, and speaking with my opponent on the stream after the match, I outright said that was my mistake playing that game. So the bottom enhance, it's there, it's nice, it very rarely comes up. You mainly want it there for the return to printed zone and -3 speed. Moving on, we have 2 Lost in Fort. This is 2 diff check 4. Enhance, remove, add a foundation from each player's stage to their hand. Both players build a card from their hand face down. It was nice in the games where it came up, but I'm fighting a lot for my check 2 spaces. And I found this card got sided out in most games. This card and the next card, which I'm going to come up to in a moment, typically was the cards which got sided out for other foundations in the sideboard, purely to increase checks or to change my block ratios. Like I said, the enhance is really powerful. I still wouldn't take it out of the main deck, but I think games 2 and games 3, after determining that Lost in Fort is not going to be impactful in that matchup, Lost in Fort went out and it got sided out. The next card that got sided out a lot for me was New Training Method. We're running 3 in main deck. A bit of a spoiler for the later on in the list. I am running a lot of difficulty 3 foundations, so this just helps extend on those build turns. So there were several times when you would open up your first hand with multiple difficulty 3 foundations, and it doesn't feel good to go play a foundation on a 3, play a foundation on a 4, to then check a 3 and pass your turn. Whereas play on a 3, play New Training Method on a 3, play a 1 diff, play a 0 diff, and then drop that second 3 down off a training method. It just increased your consistency based on regards on that. Again, going into game 2, game 3, when you start to think, right, well, these particular diff 3s don't need to be in main, and the diff 3s come out, so do some of the new training methods as well, just to increase your check consistency. Moving on, we have a 1-off face shield. This, again, goes in with the life defense. I block a card, deals no damage, flip it. I didn't feel comfortable going into an event, into a national event, without at least some face shield. And it just felt right having 1 in the main and then a couple more inside if I needed to go to them. It is purely there for the response. I never once put this card in my stage. It just didn't feel correct to do so. Yeah, there's not really much more to say on that. Now, the only 4 of in my main deck is 4 copies of Evade and Copy. This card is so good in the format right now. Even if you're not playing Monoma just on its own, that static effect. After I'm going to block with this card, return this your rival's attack to its printed speed and zone. There were several times throughout the national tournament where someone had pumped an attack to pumped a rejuvenating smash up. They changed its zone to high, changed its zone to low. They dropped 3 momentum into its EX and gone, yeah, this attack is hitting you. And I put an evading copy down and go, I'll block it on a 6 for a full block. Then they tried to argue it. No, it's high zone. No, it's speed 11. And I go, well, I block it on a mid 4 with a +2 block modifier, so I'll block it on a 6. And then that just completely disrupted the turn. You could tell that they had no intention of me surviving past that rejuvenating smash, and it threw them for a loop, and you hit them back on the crackback. The benefit of playing Monoma with the Evade and Copy is you actually get the enhance. So Evade and Copy has Monoma enhance once per turn. This foundation gains all enhance abilities printed on a non-unique rival foundation. Stealing my rival's passing the torches. Stealing my rival's warplanes on a defense when I haven't built my own yet. It just felt so good of going, your defensive pieces, your aggro pieces are now my defensive pieces and my aggro pieces. I'm getting this win over, or I'm getting beyond you because of what you've put down. So yeah, having a 4 of, I felt like I needed to see this card. Either I wanted it down so that it limited what you wanted to put down, or I needed it in hand because I know that speed is the killer at the moment. Yeah, there's not really much more to say on that one. Moving on, we have 3 copies of Passing the Torch. Not really much to say on this one. My deck is struggling on draw cards, and this is just commit, draw a card. Felt really good when you commit it to draw a card, then you ready it with repeated smashes, then commit it to draw a card on your next attack. You're getting that double advantage out of it. There were times when you're able to artificially dump your hand in your opponent's turn, then draw 2 off of it. Honestly, just felt really, really good. There were turns in games where I felt more confident in the matchup because I opened with Passing the Torch. And then on the flip side, on games where I didn't have Passing the Torch, I missed it. I felt like I needed it. So out of all the foundations here, which has an argument of being a 4X, I would say Passing the Torch. If you want to drop Face Shield for Passing the Torch, I would not be opposed to that. Final 2 diff in the deck, we have 2 copies of Warclay in the main board. Really, really love Warclay. Enhanced flip. If it's blocked, if this attack is blocked, it deals no damage. Love pairing this with Evade and Copy. I don't care what speed you put it to. I don't care what zone you put it to. I'm going to half block it with Evade and Copy, and it says it deals no damage. You just having that combo, you just feel so safe. And it just gets better if you pair it with a release as well. Remember, the Evade and Copy returns to its printed speed, so using the cooperation efforts to -3 speed doesn't help. Doesn't help the Evade and Copy because you'll go -3 speed, and then Evade and Copy puts it back to printed, where your release does pair with it because that modifies your check. So you release your Aiden Coffees, your Walklings, they just make it so you feel so safe. And that's it for 2 diff foundations. Moving on to 3 diffs, we have a large chunk of 3 diff foundations, as mentioned earlier when I talked about the new training method. So we have 1 Blood Evaluation. This was my favourite card in the deck all the way through testing. I loved seeing Blood Evaluation. I was so happy it was in the deck. Come to Nationals, I didn't see the card once. I just felt so bad that I never saw it. So 3 diff response once per turn. After this foundation is ready due to effect, draw a card. And then enhance discard 1 momentum. Ready this card or flip 1 rival momentum playable or committed. This card was a light bulb moment for me. So in testing, I was one of my local players, came top 16 with Jonathan on Amajiki. And the light bulb moment was when I reread the card. So everyone knows it's discard a momentum to ready it and then respond, you draw. Rereading the card, I get to flip one of your momentum. So I found what I was doing more often was I was discarding momentum to flip Kraken Chimeras, to flip Electric Jolts. These powerful chaos pieces which go face up in the momentum. I was flipping them before my rival could play them, and you could see removing that resource from my rival when they weren't planning it because no one, from what I'm seeing, uses the flip a rival momentum effect. It's kind of like an invisible effect. It disrupted their play to a point where they couldn't play through it. Eventually, Jonathan did learn through it. He started to get past it. But that additional effect for me was more beneficial than the ready in a foundation. So it's like if you put the argument against the electric jolt, if I ready it, then you just committed it with electric jolt anyway. Whereas if I commit your electric jolt, I can then ready it later on. So it was that sort of synergy. It gave me the control, not the rival, with the face-up cards. And then the response triggers off of repeated smash. Repeated smash readies it by an effect, so you can respond and draw for repeated smash. All in all, just felt so much better when it was on my stage. It was my favourite card all through testing, and unfortunately, I just never saw it join the event in itself. We next have the other 3 Diff Toga Foundation. We have 2 copies of Excited for Blood. Not really much to say on it. If I hit you, which is what I'm wanting to do, I'll lose 2 and draw a card. Or if I hit you, I just gain 3. Gain 4. It's simple. It's draw a card. It's life gain. It's a high rock. It just does what you want to do in a deck which says I need to hit you. Moving on, a bit of a spicy choice, I believe, but when it came up, I was so happy to be playing this guy. We have 1 copy of Planning Ahead. This is the Diff 3 1 card, foil card from the Midoriya starter deck. It has E-commit, name of attack zone. If your rival's attack of this turn matches the attack zone, it gets -5 damage. Honestly, this was here for Bullet Punch. I just had the main deck answer for Bullet Punch. I see a Bullet Punch. I know you're playing this Bullet Punch multiple times. One of them is going to be at -5 damage. And sometimes that -5 damage is what makes you survive a Bullet Punch stream. It came up in other games as well when you start seeing regular attack streams. So, like for example, I came across a mid funny punch wrapper. So your entire attack lineup is mid. You're not playing bullet punches, right? Cool. I ended up with 2 planning heads out because there's an additional copy inside, and basically just said your next attack's at 5 damage. It's a mid. Your next attack is now at 5 damage again. It's a mid. So just negating 10 damage off of a rapid kill turn. Honestly, just makes you feel like you know you're going to get to your next turn. Definitely, in my opinion, a slept-on card, and possibly one of my favourite choices I took today. And the last card for main deck, we have 2 copies of SQ completed. I touched on this one earlier. E-commit Foundation. This deck gets +1 on -2 speed. It's the final piece for me and for life defense. That -2 speed, -3 speed, +2 for my check. If I block it, deals no damage. Eventually, you just save this attack's not hitting. I found as well, I was using its top enhance quite a bit. Destroy ready 2 face down foundations that have not been vetted this combat phase. You commit your face down for -2 speed. You then destroy it ready, and then I've got a ready stage again, ready, good to go to block you. But all in all, it was primarily there for the final pieces of the life defense. And that's your main deck. Total 77 cards, quite a chunky boy. But again, I wouldn't feel comfortable playing less than. There's so many strong cards off of the life symbol where you just feel like you need to put them in the deck, but by the time you end up with 3-4 copies of them, you're on a 100 card deck. This took a lot of cutting down for me to get to 77, and I just wasn't ruthless enough to get any lower. So moving on to the sideboard, you play in Monoma, you're going to have matchups where Monoma, no matter what you do, is just not going to play. So you have to have a second character in your side, something to go into when your effects just don't matter to me in any situation. So my character of choice for this event was Overhaul. Pairing with the Overhaul is 2 copies of Maximum Overhaul, because there's some attacks in my deck which Overhaul just don't want to be playing, such as Muscle Rush. You don't need that in Overhaul, so it's good to tutor and change your attack line up a little for it. So we've got 1 overhaul, 2 maximum overhaul inside. Spicy choice for me inside. This is a decision and an idea from another deck builder and friend of mine, Apple. We have 2 heroic clash. This never came in, but it was there. Because it's not a deck, or it's not a deck which I've built, which doesn't have a meme in it somewhere. So this is my obligatory meme. And this was my answer to Eraserhead, or this was Apple's answer to Eraserhead, and I went, I like that, I'm playing that, so we've got 2 copies of Heroic Clash. So to explain how this answers Eraserhead, you let them do their thing. Let them discard arrays, block with arrays, breaker, discard arrays, block with arrays, breaker. Then you drop a Heroic Clash, you play through the breaker. Enhance discard and momentum. After this attack resolves, both players remove all cards in their card pool, then draw 2 cards. If I'm going against an Eraserhead and I can choose when I remove 2 copies of your arrays from the game and say you now don't have access to it for at least this kill turn and next kill turn, I'm happy with that. I'll play this check 1. And then it's cleared my card pool, so I don't really care about your breaker, and now I'm going to go in to kill you. That was the theory. I've yet to test that theory, but I still like that theory. I was just fortunate enough to not pair into an Eraserhead throughout the entirety of the event and through all my testing. Finally, we've got a few foundations. We've got 2 more face shield just to round those up if I'm coming across a throw-based build. Same with 1 more copy of Walkley. Just some more life defensive cards which say if I block this it deals no damage. We have 1 copy of Encouraging Trading Partner, just in case the rest of my life defense don't work, I can set the speed to 4. And as alluded to earlier, 1 more copy of the Planning Ahead, just to pair into those additional wrapper or mono zones where you're going to keep hitting me in the same zone constantly printed, and I can just decrease that damage out. So that's the deck which I took to the EU Nationals. I'm quite happy with how it performed. I played low 40s out of just over 80 players. The final record of 3 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie. I've been speaking with Brett a lot about my performance. It took a bit of a confidence hit, but I am actually really happy with how it performed. Thinking on it on hindsight, a lot of my losses were dice roll losses. So game 1, I paired into a wrapper, and I was finished walking around the game hall 15 minutes into round 1. Rapper won the dice roll, Rapper built, I built, Rapper played 5 bullet punches, and we go to game 2. Goes to game 2, I built, he built, I became Rapper, built a bit more. He played 4 bullet punches and Sugar Rush and one of the Bentanini punches. And then next thing I know, I'm going and getting a coffee. It sucked, but if I was the Rapper player, I'd do the exact same. It just had that confidence aspect of, after thinking on it, I don't think there's a deck in the room where if I sat down with that deck, that game would have gone any other differently. So yeah, I just took that one on the chin. Game 2, I got to bully a Nomu. So being hand-side 6 Nomu, with all the Nomu's buffs, being able to build more, being able to aggressively attack more, having the life symbol so I get the draw, having the life symbol so I can ready up. It was just really, really comfortable game. Game 3 was against the Moneta 2, which I talked about earlier. Game 1, like I said, was a 40-minute game 1. And then I think we went to time in game 2, so I took that one 1-0 up. Round 4, I was on stream against the fantastic Richard Plummer. We've had a bit of banter over the past few weeks building up to nationals about how he's going to smack me to oblivion if I play Monoma. And obviously, if he turns up with the bird like he did do, of course he's going to do. You know, my character, when I become a bird, is I discard top 5 cards in my deck for no reason. Or I get +1 damage if I'm committed, as well as +1 damage if I'm ready. There's no reason for me to be the bird. I'm quite happy with how I played that game. It became, if you go back and you watch it, I've watched it multiple times myself to see if there was any misplays, and I think I only played wrong on the last card and the last action I played. And I put him in a situation where he had to enhance off of his Summon Dark Shadow for +3 to check the block, to then block with a Summon Dark, with a Ruin to survive my turn. And that surviving my turn left him on 1. So I pulled out everything I could, and so did Richard, and his defense took him through. So fair play to Richard. Next round was the Crutch. I paired into Apple, so we had our deck building. We've been playtesting extensively against each other, as we have done over the years. And this is the first time we've both gone into a national event playtesting against each other, where neither deck has solidly took a game off of the other person. So Apple was playing Mirio, quite confidently one of the best Mirio decks I've seen. And we were both on the exact same record going into this round, but knowing that if we lose, we're not topping. I couldn't go into the play-by-plays. All I'll say on this one is our head judge Murray came to our table 10 minutes into the round, saw us shuffling up, asked us who took game 1, and our answer was, we going into game 3. Game 1 was 6 minutes and 30 seconds, where I out-Mirio'd the Mirio. Turns out giving everything punch and changing all the zones, having a high zone tongue whip kind of hurts. Game 2, he just drew the nuts and continued drawing the nuts with all his attacks which they draw. Game 3 was a bit of a back and forth, but he eventually drew a hand which says there's no situation where this does not kill your opponent. And that's where my run ended. But I stuck it out because I wanted to see how high I could take a Monoma. Managed to then pair into a second wrapper, which was the mid Funny Punchers, took that one 2-0. And final round was against a Overhaul, which went to a 1-1 tie. I think by the end of it, we both just got tired. Both ended up in a grindy situation and just let it play to the time. Fair play to my rival on that one. He did apologise at the end of the game because he felt like he was playing slow. You could see that was affecting him. I just had to remind him that the policy says playing at a reasonable pace. So we went to time, but at no point did I feel like you was artificially slowing the game. You played at a reasonable pace. You was thinking your plays through. Play as you are doing, you'll be fine going forward. So we had that nice little moment at the end there. So yeah, that was Monoma's run at Nationals. Genuinely think it's not as much as a meme character as people are putting out, especially not in this format. Like I said at the start, a lot of characters struggle in a mirror match, and Monoma plays at a mirror match just slightly better than most characters do. And that slight advantage, I think, was enough.
Thank you, Nathan, for an insight into your Monoma deck. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, and we look forward to seeing you on the next deck profile. If you're liking the content, please do hit subscribe and let us get that engagement and get our content up. Thank you. Goodbye.